You'll never believe who the player really is. This theory will flip everything you knew about Poppy Playtime. Watch until the end, because the last fact will absolutely blow your mind. Imagine an abandoned toy factory, playtime company, silence, darkness, dust on the floor that hasn't been disturbed for 10 years. And suddenly you receive a strange letter from dead employees. The envelope is old, yellowed, but the seal is fresh. How is this even possible? But wait, why you? Why did the letter come to you? Out of all the people on the planet, out of millions of former employees of different companies, you are the one who receives this message from the past. This is where it gets creepy. The player is a former Playtime Co employee who worked there 10 years ago. But he's not just a worker, not just a security guard or janitor. No. He was part of the experiment. He worked in the most secret department of the factory, where ordinary people weren't allowed, where doors were locked with 7 locks and windows were boarded up. Remember the hour of joy, that very day, August 8th, 1995, when all the employees disappeared, when the factory corridors filled with screams and then dead silence fell. The player didn't come to work that day. His time card is marked as absent. Coincidence? I don't think so. Let's dig deeper. The player knew about the experiments on children. He saw documents, signed papers, maybe even was present in the laboratory. He saw how they created Huggy Wuggy, that very blue monster with a creepy smile. He knew how Mommy Longlegs appeared with her endless arms. From living children, children from the orphanage that nobody was looking for, that nobody asked about. But the scariest part, he could have been one of the scientists who did this. Imagine a white coat, a tablet in hand, a cold look at a child who's crying and begging for help, and you just record the instrument readings.
Wait, it gets even worse. Why does the Poppy doll help the player? Why does she, locked in a box for 10 years, suddenly decide to trust him specifically? Because she recognizes him. Her glass eyes look at him and something flickers in them. Memory? Recognition? Fear? Maybe the player created her. Maybe he was the chief engineer of the Poppy project. Or he was her father. What if he had a daughter, a little girl with red hair who loved playing with dolls? What if one day she got sick and he, desperate, agreed to the experiment? We'll preserve her consciousness, his colleagues told him. She'll live forever. Some fans believe that the player's daughter became one of the experiments, and he returned to the factory 10 years later, not for the truth, not for answers. He returned to save her soul, to free her from this nightmare, from this prison of plastic and fabric. But there's an even darker theory. What if the player himself is part of the experiment? Think logically. How can an ordinary person wear the grab pack? These mechanical arms weigh tons. They create incredible pressure on the spine. They should have torn an ordinary person in half on the first use. What if his body is already half toy? What if under his skin there are no bones but a metal frame? What if his muscles are reinforced with synthetic fibers and his blood is replaced with a special liquid? An ordinary person wouldn't withstand such a load. An ordinary person couldn't survive an encounter with Huggy Wuggy, couldn't escape from Mommy Longlegs. And here's another thing. Have you noticed that the player never speaks? Not a word throughout the entire game. Maybe he physically can't. Maybe the experiment took away his voice. Or is he afraid that the monsters will recognize him by his voice? In the 3rd chapter, hints appear that change everything. CatNap, this purple cat with gas that puts victims to sleep. He calls the player a heretic, not a stranger, not an enemy. Specifically a heretic. This is a religious term. It means a traitor to the faith. Why? Because the player betrayed the prototype, the very monster who controls the daughters of the people. The player betrayed the prototype, anything that monster. This very monster controls the completely. You missed the player. Betrayed the prototype. The very monster who controls the prototype. The player betrayed the prototype who started the monster. The very monster who controls the prototype led on to the change. The prototype is the first experiment, the first creature created from human and toy. He's like a god to all the other monsters, and the player was once his follower, his assistant, maybe even his creator. But something went wrong.
Maybe the player saw what the prototype was turning into. Maybe he realized he had created not salvation, but a monster. And he ran away. He disappeared on the very day the hour of joy was supposed to happen. He knew what would happen, and he didn't stop it. He just ran away, leaving everyone to die. Now think about the grab pack differently. It's not just a tool. It's a weapon created specifically to fight toy monsters. The blue hand can conduct electricity, perfect against Huggy Wuggy. The green hand stretches over huge distances, perfect against Mommy Longlegs. The purple hand in the third chapter can move huge objects. This is not a coincidence. The player created the grab pack as insurance. He knew that one day he would have to return. He knew he would have to face what he created. And he prepared for this for 10 years. And the letter? That very letter that lured him back? He wrote it himself. 10 years ago, before escaping, he wrote a letter to himself. He knew that cowardice wouldn't give him peace. He knew that sooner or later he would have to return and finish what he started.
You know.
But finish how? Save everyone? Or destroy everyone? That's the question. Poppy says she wants to help, but she constantly lies. She manipulates the player, leads him deeper into the factory, to where the prototype lives. Why? Maybe she wants the player to kill the prototype, or vice versa, for the prototype to kill the player. Maybe it's revenge for what he did to her, for turning her into a doll.
Maybe she wants him to suffer just as she suffered all these years in the box.
And now the creepiest part. In the game files there are hidden audio recordings. A man's voice saying, "Forgive me. Forgive me, Poppy. I didn't know. I didn't know what they would do to you." Is this the player's voice? Is this a recording from the past? Or is this what he will say in the future? The player from Poppy Playtime is not a hero and not a victim. He's a man with a dark past who returned to the factory of horrors to face his sins. He's a scientist who played God and lost. He's a father who lost his daughter. He's a traitor who abandoned his colleagues. He's a coward who ran away. And he's the only person who can stop the nightmare that he himself created. And the scariest part, we're playing as him, not knowing the whole truth. Every step we take, every door we open, every monster we meet, it's part of his past. These are his sins, materialized in the form of killer toys. And the game's finale will show us who he really is. Savior or destroyer. Father or monster. Human or experiment. Playtime Co. is not just a toy factory. It's a place where the line between life and death, between human and thing, was erased. And the player was at the very center of this. He knows everything. And soon, we will know too.